It's an honor for me to be here. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for the invitation by Gwangju Biennale. Thank you, Jinjoo, for being here. I will present briefly in the first 7 minutes, more or less, my practice of the last 10 years. I started in 1998 as an artist. I'm practicing as an artist. I have to say I am a member of the collective Elena Producciones in Colombia, and we organize a performance festival in Cali, in Colombia, in South America. And we started with the festival to continue, or to give us the possibility to continue with the careers, with an artist's career. At the same time, it was also a pedagogical tool to have a collective and to start working in group. So for me, this has been my structure. And also, I have to say now, and to link with this, with the part I will show today, I started, I had with Andres, who is here, like an editing studio, an editing suite, and to survive the first 2 years, when I finished the university, we had an animation studio. And many pharma industries were hiring us just to animate monsters, like little monsters of the advertisement, of the pharma advertisement. So this was the moment I realized how the figure of the monster is linked to the propaganda, to the advertisement, and also to politics. In the sense, is a tool also for politics. There is a sentence by James Baldwin in the film I Am Not Your Negro. He says, "This problem, which they invented in order to safeguard their purity, has made of them criminals and monsters, and it is destroying them." That means the monster is inside us, and we have, it's urgent that we review, and that we can be able, or we prepare the tools to see these monsters inside us. So that's the reason I started, for one side, to work collectively, and for other side, to reflect about the image of the monster in relation to animation. So I will show fast some images of the process, how I do the animations. So I start always with a role play. A role play, that means like Dungeons and Dragons, or like this. And every person has to bring an avatar, which is her or his monster. So, but before this, we become friends, and in the direction to become friends, we hang out together, we eat together. This was a visit in Mexico City to Estudios Churubusco. Estudios Churubusco is a huge film studio. We also use like old magazines about the future and prepare some collages. And this is the moment when the participants, the co-participants, start to bring the avatars. So this is Mayumi. She's a gamer from Mexico City, and she has a wolf as character. He's Ivan, and his character is a worm. And it's a worm related to Alice in Wonderland, but at the same time is a worm that guides the other characters to utopia. So at the end, every person play with her or his character, and during the process is that every person forgot about herself or himself. So this is the way the script is written and the animation comes. This is the visit to the toy museum, to an old toy museum in Mexico City. It was in 2014. And this is a part of the final animation.
Mi amiga, ¿dónde está mi amiga?
He vivido 300 años y anhelo morir. Soy falso dios de profesión y mago por vocación. Cada futuro colectivo es un acto de magia.
You're opposite. I'm topsy-turvy. I'm every man in reverse.
La isla queda en una frecuencia paralela. Ahí viviremos libres y unidos por siempre.
So the next role play was based in a DC comic book that is about. I mean, the main character is a villain that lives in Colombia, and the villain gets his power from the cocaine. So the role play was to twist. I mean, the purpose of the role play was to twist the narrative of this macho villain, like super dangerous, against other machos who come to kill him in Colombia, in the jungle in Colombia. And we did the role play. It was a very short role play in Berlin with Patricio Sarazaga, who is like a game master, helped me like being the game master, and every person used a character from the comic book. This was not done with avatars of their own. The role play was with the characters of the comic book, just to review this kind of narrative that is the villain, like typical Colombian villain against the people who come from the United States to save Colombia. And in this case, a choreographer did the movement who was used for the movement of the characters in the animation. And an illustrator from Berlin, Cristina Valero, reinterpreted the whole thing. I mean, under her view, all was reinterpreted to be in order to be the following animation. So there were like many steps until the animation came. This is the role play I done in Vita the Beat, and I decided to do this role play only with women and was based in the sex diary of a guerrilla girl from Holland who used to live in Colombia. So we read the sex diary and reinterpreted some passages. I, as a game master, put the action on the desk, and people solve the action through their characters. And this was the final animation. A part of this, and I will finish in like 2 minutes. Okay, and this was the last one I did last year in Colombia, and was based, the story I put on the desk to be solved by the avatars of the people, was based in a comic book by a guerrilla man in Colombia about the independent state of Marquetalia. That was the first farmers' independent state in Colombia that was totally destroyed, and there was a genocide in the 80s, when in 1954, 64, I don't remember, when all the farmers were killed, and there was the beginning of the FARC, of the guerrilla in Colombia. So every character solved the situation in a different way through the role play, and in this play, the participants did the movements. It was the first time a choreographer came to the workshop or to the role play, took part in the role play, and organized the movement to do the motion capture. So this was the stone. He was a stone. And these were the characters at the end.
About Anna Maria's works through her own voice, I think. And I'm very happy to be here to talk and discuss with her. And actually, we first met today. And then actually today is first day to present in English for me. So please understand, I'm not my mother tongue is not in English. So, but first I questioned myself about what I'm invited for this discussion, especially for as a kind of discussant or kind of a partner, conversation partner for her work, or kind of a grounding some kind of imaginative talks, ideas about through her words or through Korean circumstances for now. And I question myself, and the first answer is I'm not a professional about feminism or feminism art or queer literature or any other things, but I'm sure through the a few days ago, probably, and actually yesterday, firstly we talked on the Skype in the long distance, and then I was told about her work firstly, and then I found the clue of my question, self-questioning, and that is among her works. Through the works, there's a kind of collectivity or kind of performativity between the community or the peoples, the individuals and collectives. So it makes me record about the figures that whom I met in my practice, and the kind of kind of queerness, queer people or queer things or something undescribable or unidentified existence or living. So so it doesn't matter about the biological bodily situation themselves, I guess. And yeah, especially those specific concrete figures that Anna Maria embodied to her works, like female gamer or performer or illustrator. It resonated in my practice, that kind of women's or queerness or queer people, like queer existence who are struggling, and then whenever they need to struggle, they gather, I think, in the festival or in the streets. So it reminds me the kind of part. So, and in my practice, recently I co-curated the show about Korean, kind of so-called Korean Korean feminism artist activist, their practice, lawfully. I don't want to make a kind of a capital upper cap narratives about or history about feminism art. So, but I co-curated. I one of exhibition makers. We gathered kind of a senior feminist artist as well as activists who were mainly working in 2000 in the millennium in Korea, and then they fought against with kind of a feudal or kind of a old dynasty families who were admire that history or the tradition or the kind of things, and they exhibited it outside, not in the museum. And then the place was coincidentally or intentionally is Shirin of a Lee dynasty. So the family proceeders fought with and they pull out their artworks in the street before they open it. But interestingly, this project was supported by the city government. One of those kind of a festival artworks for the new millennium trends of the city culture, kind of public culture. So and also they proceeded legal suit and they won finally. We invited them, those members, after 2 decades. And actually, recently, a few years ago, they retired. They say they retired themselves. So they dismantled the collective themselves, and yeah. But they reunion and they talk and they meet with new new feminist artist activist. Like if I call their name, luckily here, 우지안, 정소영, 권세정, like 3 artists. And among them, they're working in collectively, and also among them, they're working individually. Okay, in the street to speak out about feminism or women's life there or struggle. And also some secretly collectives fragments in the internet about women and their struggles. And those kind of practice to be a listener for the feminism art or feminist activist or artist. It could be possible with the collective power, actually. I'm a part of a curatorial and editorial collective called Agrafa Society that I will edit more meanings in the end for this talk. And Lee Yeon-suk, Lee Jin-sil, my friends, and we're together curated and make project web journal about feminism and queer in the perspective of feminism and queer, and also in addition to the web journal practice, we held a kind of offline seminar, and then we met several artists who were working in contemporary art, including theater or art. Who perform their live as a kind of undescribable things. And then, yeah. And also I remember that the beginning of our collectives, that is, there was a podcast program about feminism art in Korea, and we met all our women who are ahead of us and who practice feminism art there, like 80 minutes, okay. 80s, and then I also remember my very unknown individual works about who killed in the fire of a sex worker's tragic accident in this city in Korea. Anyhow, and I'm thinking about the question of the Usuge or curators that and to link about resonated in Korea, especially around issues violence and populism and gender. And I'm not sure if I can edit and finalize that anyhow. And in the Skype talk, I shared as much as I can about Korean game or gaming culture and also sexuality. And then I was thinking that the point is the struggle of feminism and against the game culture or game industry, and then the matter of gender and sexuality after feminism reboot in Korea, especially in 2015 and 16. And then passing through anecdotes, which is very interesting, but yeah. And then Maria's works is she said herself is not a gamer. She's not a gamer, but she focused on that kind of a collectives of participants, and also she wants to rebuild that kind of a relation behind the military technology, propaganda, or internet, or animation, or game industry, and also bringing those kind of very concrete practice or her life self about the sustainability or economic situation as an artist or animator like this. So I think it could be really fully resonated in the current situation too, of course. And in the process, in the Skype talk, we had a kind of a temporary conclusion about that. She doesn't, or any other, we actually don't need to respond or bring or try to make effort to match the detail of Korean situation to her works. The most important thing is, or the better thing is, knowledge production. How to make a kind of knowledge production through the gaming methodology or those role-playing things. And then we also try to, we say like it'll be really nice to ask a question about the gap in generation and gap in individual among feminist artists or activists or performers. And there's some questions, and then I'd like to add some examples, but I'd love to end it. Sorry.
Let's take the questions on
Okay. So I'd like to ask to her or to share. I'd like to share my question with the audience today for those several questions, and because these questions is also firstly evoked in the field of Korean circumstances, gaming culture or feminist movement. So first would be, we can make those kind of questions. What is kind of other sexuality representation for the language or the system of language of weird or strange or queerness against in or among or against male dominant sex culture here, and then what does eager to have a kind of those kind of a queer narratives or feminism narratives. Probably it could be in the field of artworks and also I'd like to question about how we can rebuild or twist the structure or power hegemony of those legal systems or institutional structures through ironical positioning, like from feminism speech or to art speech, because in the process of legal status, Sue's case of that old feminist 20th millennium's feminist artist and activist case, who they argue themselves as a kind of a feminist, but in the law's case, they came to argue themselves as a kind of a artist, because in order to protect their right, which broken by the againsters, actually. And I think it's really could be resonated her works, how Anna Maria twisted narratives of games in her works, actually, in order to create those weird creatures or weird monsters that she said. And also I found some clues about like a Korean female artist, An Ga-young, and her works 즐거운 생활, and then she created game figure, looks like a kind of a how do I say, hermaphrodite, or like, you know, so, and it's a kind of quest to create those kind of a creature. And then among the recent exhibition that I co-curated, the artist Kwon Se-jung used Instagram to collect women, the word or speech or discourses around women in Korean society. And then she titled the work, "We Will Always Be Back." And then she collected those anecdotes or traces of the women's movement through late 80s till now. And then among them, in 2005, there's an anti-sexual violence festival in Korea. And then for the poster, the organizers created porno into porna, O from O into A, and then the female vowel. They transform it. And then it's also resonated our collective's naming, that agrafa. That means illegal or no system of language, actually. And how we can speak or how we can create those kind of stories, not only for that language structure, because we always questioning ourselves that the reason why woman has no voice is no language. But language can be or can produce a kind of a side effect that normality, actually. So the question will be how we could create abnormality aesthetics or politics through, for example, Anna Maria's works, I guess. And then and then I also recollected the last one examples about among the recent show, artist named Cian, and she made a lottery machine filled of abortion pills. And the title is Gacha Abortion Pills, and then the performance is started from get the abortion pills from the lottery machine by each performance, and they open it, the lottery capture, and then they read the message inside of it, and they eat the pills, and they shrink the pills. And I think it's a kind of a, mourning or kind of a melancholic practice, looking back or being in solidarity of women's life or feminism. But and I think in a way after that stage we need some kind of other language or other discourses. So I hope we can discover in the Gwangju Biennale, upcoming Gwangju Biennale, as for through Anna Maria's works.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna Maria. Thank you so much, Jinjoo.